Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode, we sit down with Jacob Stevens of Homewood Parks and Recreation to discuss youth sports, leadership, teamwork, and creating positive experiences for young athletes.
Welcome to the Youth Sports Mastery Show. I'm Aaron Locks, and once again, I'm fired up because that's how I roll. But I'm actually excited this week again because now I'm going to a different region, different part of the country to hear what's going on in Parks and Rec. I got to spend some amazing time talking to so many wonderful people at the California Parks and Rec Society's conference down in Long Beach. That was phenomenal. There's so many wonderful people in the Parks and Rec space that do what they do. And this week, we're going to dive in a little more in depth on something that's coming down from the South. So I want to be able to share that. What we're going to do is we're going to roll some spots. So hang with us. When we come back on the other side, after paying the bills, we can dive in and we'll introduce Jacob from Alabama. Thanks. See you in a minute.
Welcome to DPRS Media Network, the voice of parks and recreation professionals, where leadership grows, facilities thrive, and communities connect. Leadership Series: Insights from the leaders shaping our industry. Facility Maintenance: The backbone of safe and sustainable spaces. Young Professionals Network: Empowering the next generation of parks and rec leaders. The Rec Room: Real conversations, real stories, real impact. Youth Sports Mastery: Elevating the game for athletes and communities. Smart Parks Forward: Innovation driving the future of recreation. On the Front Line: Honoring those who serve our communities every day. Athletes Commute: The journey behind the performance. The Aquatics Life: Everything aquatics: safety, staffing, sustainability. Safe Spaces and Green Spaces: A show exploring the connection between nature and mental well-being. And we don't just tell the stories, we show up where it happens. From local gatherings to national parks and recreation conferences, DPRS Media Network is on the ground, capturing conversations, highlighting innovation, and amplifying the voices shaping our industry's future. DPRS Media Network, connecting parks, empowering people, inspiring communities.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
All right, welcome back to the Youth Sports Mastery. My guest today, Jacob, let's bring Jacob out. Let's bring him out. My guest today, I'm really excited because having someone from another part of the country. So Jacob, welcome to the show. Jacob Stevens from what are we going to call this? Homewood Parks, Alabama. Where is Homewood Parks, Alabama?
We're right outside of Birmingham.
Okay.
So
Wonderful. Okay.
we're landlocked between Hoover, Vestavia Hills, Mountain Brook, that area. So we're just a suburb of Birmingham.
Got it. Okay, good to know. And we spoke a little bit, but I'd love for the audience to get to know a little bit as a superintendent in the Parks and Rec space. And I understand, you probably don't have 800 employees. I would imagine if you're a smaller rec district, and you've been doing this since what, 1999. Starting in high school. So you've had a journey, which we're going to talk a little bit about. But tell me a little bit about what you do, like kind of what your role and responsibility is with your title.
Yeah, so my current role is anything dealing with athletics and aquatics, whether it be facility maintenance or programming, lifeguards, aquatics. It's a 24/7 job, 365 now, because all the sports and then the pools, they all overlap each other. So it's really organized chaos.
Right. It's funny when you say that. When I think about it in Parks and Rec, they always have job description, and duties as assigned, right? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, yeah. And yet in you, it's a lot of it, you're assigned it. You know what I mean? You're doing the work and and like you were on a tractor earlier, like you said, you're pretty much doing whatever it takes to make the programs run.
Yeah, and it took some time getting used to that. So when I was hired at Homewood, I started as a senior rec leader, being over like youth athletics.
Mhm.
And then I was promoted to athletic coordinator, being that really brought on the facilities and different things like that. But then once the superintendent role opened, that opened up aquatics and just everything. So it took a little getting used to actually having, especially athletic coordinators under myself, because I was so used to just doing it by myself. So that took a little learning curve to get used to that.
I bet. But I love the fact that there's one industry that I've been involved in youth sports and parks and recs and whatever since 1983. So I've seen there's one consistent. Well, there's two. One is everything's always changing. Let's be honest, right? And the other is that I don't know another industry where there's this weaving in back and forth of jobs and roles and opportunities, because you can go from this to here to kind of bounce your way. I don't say bounce, but work hard to get your opportunity. And whether it's staying in this city and then going to a big city, then coming back, right? I mean, that's how this works, right?
Yeah, and you kind of have to go out there and really learn different options. I didn't want to like pigeonhole myself into only athletics or only aquatics. Like I wanted to, ultimately I would like to become a director one day. So I wanted to make sure I was learning a little bit of everything so that I could take that up to the next level. Because, I have seen people just be promoted to directors and stuff, and how the mayor just may not think a whole lot of park and rec and just give it to somebody. And you've seen that. A lot of people see that, and a lot of people succeed doing that, but it's also a huge learning curve on that. So
yeah, I'm proud of my son. He's 24, and currently he's managing a gas station for corporate in Costco in Greensboro, North Carolina. But it's interesting to me because he met a general manager, and then he met a district, and then a regional, and they said get to know every position. So he was a cart, brought in. He worked in the bakery. He worked in the front end. He did all the. And I'm like, what do you know about all? He goes, I'm just learning, Dad. I'm learning it all because he wants to run a store. He wants to be a regional. He wants to do that. I thought, what a great way. And what I love about Parks and Rec, I got chills thinking about it. Parks and Rec, this is the great place to do it, right? You're smarter than me. I'm just a dumb jock. I've been in youth sports my entire life, and I guess I'm good. I don't know, who knows, but you're figuring it all out at different levels. So good for you for doing it. Let's talk about little Jacob. Little Jacob, what did little Jacob do with sports what was that like for you when you were a kid?
So I started out playing baseball, soccer. I really got into basketball in middle school, which was a little bit too late. I had a lot to catch up on. When it came to trying out for the school team, I didn't make it in my first couple of years, but I stuck with it and played through high school till my senior year, and realized I wasn't going to make the NBA. And so I decided not to play my senior year. And I actually went and got a job at the local park and rec department, just working the scorebook and things like that. And they asked me to stay on throughout the summer on the field crew, and it just kind of evolved into that.
Wow. You know what? It's funny, the perception that you started too late. You said that. And I kind of want to remind folks that, you can start anywhere you can, but Jacob, you wanted to do that, so you stuck with it. You were able to develop the skill to do it, right?
Exactly. I remember getting my first basketball goal when I was in fourth grade, and I started practicing and played rec ball in sixth grade, and the really good kids were kind of gone the next year because they'd made the school team. So that's kind of where I really got better and got to touch the ball more. But it was a huge learning curve, and that was back in the 90s. So it's even harder nowadays. But it's all about, is a kid willing to put in the work, or is the parents willing to help them and things like that? So,
well, I also think the kids got to, if what I believe is kids should play multiple sports like you did, because then, and starting late. One of my business partners, he played 7 seasons in the NFL. He didn't play football until his sophomore year in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same way. You start playing golf later in life, and was left-handed, and back in the 90s, it's hard to find left-handed golf clubs. So,
no, I totally understand that. Well, and I guess so. If in Parks and Rec, what I love is the ability when we can is to provide as much opportunity for kids, right? The equity, the opportunity, affordable, and just have kids play. Because when you started playing, it wasn't because look. We all dreamed of being Larry Bird or whoever it was to make it. But the reality is we loved playing the games, right? We love playing the sports, what we want to do. So when you got involved in Parks and Rec, it's funny. I worked, Stuart Kessler, I remember his name, invited me over when I was a junior in high school. And through Parks and Rec, I coached the middle school team, my junior in high school. I played, baseball, basketball, football, but I also coached the junior high team. And I remember that, and that's how I got started. And then he goes, "Hey, why don't you umpire softball?" And hey, they pull you in, man. They pull you in, right?
Yep. After high school, I went to 1 year of community college doing electronic engineering, and knew that wasn't the road I was going to go down. So I sat out a year and started going into Park and Rec, full time, but making $7.25 an hour. I knew I had to go back to college to get a degree to raise that up a little bit.
Yeah. So, but what was it about Parks and Rec for you? For me, it's pretty simple. I just love the people. And for me, it's always been about the kids. But what about for you? Like, what is it that made you, obviously, besides you knew you weren't going to be an engineer, that made you say, you know what, I want to work in Parks and Rec? Because you've done this a while now.
Yeah, I think I like the different seasons. I like knowing that there's an end to something and something else is going to start up. So it kind of helped with burnout, getting just in the normal routine of going through things like that. So I think that's really what got me going was, it's kind of like being in school. You kind of wait till Christmas break, and then you kind of gear up again, start again, and get to summer. So I guess just trying to be in that school mode was really what got me.
Yeah. And then, but what was it that it realized, like, wait, this can be a career? Like, at what point did that happen for you?
So my stepdad actually passed away, and the high school basketball coach that cut me my senior year and kind of forced my Park and Rec career, he actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I've got connections at the local community college. We want to get you a scholarship and get you back in school." So that's really, what got my wheels turning of what do I want to do.
Yeah.
So, I think, I appreciate him for cutting me, realizing I was 5'3" and wasn't a great shooter. But, I still talked to him. He was here for the Final Four in Birmingham a couple weeks ago, and his team actually came to our gym and warmed up before the game. So we still communicate. And, I wasn't even on his team as a senior. So just building those relationships like that meant a lot.
Yeah, I love that. The connections through sports. I tell everybody, to me, that youth sports, there's a community, there's a vibe that happens through this, from the rec side, from the school side, and we haven't even talked about club or travel, which is a whole nother issue. But just the ability for kids in the community to play and connect. How many? I mean, I could name 20 friends I got all the way through from second grade, Donnie Hoover, Cole Pinder, Eric Roberts, and on and on. They're friends from when we were little dudes, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you've worked your way through leadership, and it's always interesting to me when we talk in Parks and Rec. You've weathered some pretty tough 2008, 2009 financials, right? We weathered
Yes.
the
That's
pandemic, right?
that was when I was graduating college was the start of the recession. So, even finding a job was tough. So I actually took a job in Shelbyville, Tennessee, uh, and went up there. I was the first athletic director they ever had at the department. So that meant a lot. I learned how to get things done with basically no resources of money or anything like that. And, I had a little bit of knowledge for ball fields and things, and just going in there with a side cutter and cleaning up the ball fields and spraying the weeds out. I made a big impact there. So it taught me a lot in those 5 years of really not having any money and almost going out and begging for sponsorships and things like that when we had ideas. So it was a big learning curve coming back to Homewood and actually having some money. I remember going to my director being like, "Hey, we need to buy basketballs," and he's like, "Okay, how many you need?" And I was like, "I need this many." He's like, "Oh, just get whatever you want." I was like, "Wait, I'm used to saying I gotta get this many balls at this price during this month." So
Yeah.
it was a learning curve.
Yeah. But you think about the resiliency that you developed during that time. And I'm gonna take it all the way back to the resiliency you learned in middle school and high school sports that led to the resiliency that you learned and developed during the challenging time of 8 to 13, right? It's all connected, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I mean, even going back to 9/11, I mean I think that was kind of the start of really the recession building up to that point. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we have been through a lot, and then you throw in COVID a couple years later. It's like you think back to the last 20 years or 25 years, we have been through a lot.
Yeah. Well, and so now you're moved up to the level, the superintendent, and you're looking. But what is it about? Would you say? I know you talk about seasons, but what is it about the sports? The youth sports is kind of where I like to dive into. And aquatics, man, I don't know how you deal with that because I'm always nervous. If I mess up on a ball field, a kid sprains an ankle or something. You mess up in the pool, man, kid doesn't come home. That's not in my wheelhouse.
That's what I tell the lifeguards that our goal is every day is everybody gets home safe. So, even when you're dealing with pool chemicals and things like that, you never know what can go wrong, and they can change in a heartbeat too. So, especially, we've got over 120 lifeguards in the summer running our two pools. So, it's a lot of different minds and bodies and work ethics and things like that when you're doing. And they start at age 15 and most of them are early 20s, so there's different mindsets of life skills and things like that they're learning. So
Yeah. So what is it, would you say, about the youth sports space? I mean, I hear the seasons, but I mean, you bounced around positions, but you've been like in athletics. What is it about that piece that has really stuck home to you, would you say?
yeah, it's really hard. And I actually saw a thing not too long ago that was like athletic coordinators, athletic directors in Park and Recs. Like they the time that they spend in that role is usually a little bit over 2 years. It's a lot of long hours, nights, weekends, holidays, things like that. So it takes somebody, I feel like, special to be in that role.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoyed it, especially before I was married and things like that. What else did I have to do? Be the basketball GM or on the baseball field.
Right.
And I appreciated getting the pats on the back, especially, if you have a rain delay coming in and you get the fields fixed, and that the people think a lot of it, and especially if you're hosting like a all-star tournament or something like that. So
Yeah.
you've got other communities there. So you're trying to show off a little bit to them in a way, and just show that, I like to there's been times when we've had some weather delays. People are like, "Oh no, there's no way we can get the fields ready." I'm like, don't tell me I can't, but I'll
Yeah.
get them ready." So
I love that competitive spirit you got.
yeah,
I've read some stuff you've done, and I love how you talk about leaving places better than you found them. Yeah, when it's fields and things, and kids, and what you're doing across the board, and your involvement in there. So, tell me a little bit about what does that mean, and how do you do that in real terms, in terms of people, in terms of space? Because I love that philosophy. It's a great, that's, gosh, could we use that everywhere?
yeah.
Right?
So Homewood was my fourth park and rec department I've worked at, and I've been here the longest of just over 16 years. But I've been in 3 different positions here, so I kind of each 4 or 5 years have been an increase. But at first when I was younger, I was kind of in that mindset that I just wanted to prove everybody I could do it, and it's taken some time to really learn, like, especially being in my role I am now, having like athletic coordinators under me, like
Mhm.
making sure, like mentoring them that things that I've learned and how to do things, and prevent burnout, making sure that they're taking care of themselves, because when I was in that role I didn't.
Mm.
I worked too many long hours. I worked too many nights. I woke up way too early some days. I didn't take vacation. Like, I want them to make sure they do that to take care of themselves better. We've got enough staff now that we can do that,
Okay.
and we all kind of help. Like, if we just had one athletic coordinator have a baby, so he was gone for 2 weeks. So everybody kind of picked up for his slack a little bit. Which builds a little team a little bit better. But
Yeah.
I at first, when I posted that about leave it better, and I found it was, when I went to Shelbyville, I made it a quick impact with the fields and programming. They didn't start basketball till age 9 when I first got there, and I dropped the age down to 7, and I actually had a 5-year-old play my first year, and made the NBA a couple years ago. So that's another story. But it's just, I wanted to, like, leave a legacy, I guess, at first. But now that I'm in this role, I want to make sure that the staff under me is also leaving that impact. And I can kind of tell when they're getting to that burnout mode. We've just kind of hit the gauntlet a little bit of
Yeah.
uh, we had pool season last summer, and then we jumped right into flag football and then basketball, and that's not counting all the other events and other leagues that we don't run that we still have to kind of oversee. But
Right.
we've kind of hit the lull a little bit for months, so I'm making sure that they're, like, taking time off, go play a round of golf, or they'll go out and run around the track and things like that, just trying to get their focus right. And I also feel like that's when they come up with the best ideas, when they're not just in that mental aspect of, hey, we're doing the job right now. So
Right. Yeah.
um,
Being able to give those breaks are important. Obviously, the thing that I'm kind of picking up from you, which is interesting, is you're developing a leadership style for yourself, but that leadership style, what you just told me, is based upon. I'll bet you there's a coach or two that you had when you were younger that gave you that insight, right? For me, Coach Eslis was my baseball coach. Obviously, working for John Wooden and Pat Riley and all these amazing guys, I got to pick that stuff up. But who are one or two coaches that kind of put that inside you, or maybe it was your parents? I don't know.
yeah, I think it was really my parents kind of put that into me. My mom worked multiple jobs to make sure we were okay, and things like that. But my first, I've been lucky to have directors that have just kind of let me kind of just do my thing without
Hmm.
micromanaging me. So I've been lucky in that aspect. And I try to pass that along to my staff that's underneath me. Is, if they have an idea, even if I don't think it will work, I let them go ahead and try it, because I don't want to just say, no, that's not going to work.
Right.
So, you never know. It may. I mean, my first year in Homewood, we were like, hey, we're going to start a kickball league, and we had like 10 people sign up, and I was like, man, I thought people were going to go really after that. But then a couple years later, we started flag football, and now it's our third biggest sport that we have. So
Wow, that's awesome. Well, so with you have a decent staff, but let's be honest, it's lean, right? I mean, you're not overly abundant with it. So how do you build a culture with like you said? I like what you're talking about, finding balance for them. But if your resources are pretty good, it sounds like they are, right? But culture is so important. My one of the ones I love here is that Coach Wooden said that it's amazing how much can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit, right?
I totally agree. I'm not one looking to get my picture in the paper or on the internet or anything like that. I've got a goal for my staff for this year that, when it comes to employee of the year, I want to put my whole staff, whether it be the laborers at the bottom of the field crew or, the athletic coordinators at the top. And that's not including me. I want to put them up for it and be like, hey, these are the reasons why this team deserves this year. So that's kind of my goal for them.
So when you talk about your team, what helps them? Would you say as somebody, because we got some Parks and Rec professionals out there looking at it. I've done an inverted pyramid for National Academy of Athletics. So I'm at the bottom, and then I lift up my partners and the franchisees and area captains, and we lift up the community partners, and then the coaches, and then the kids, and that's the goal, right? That's how we want to do that.
Yeah, and that's the same way I am here. I want, if we're short on scorekeepers or something, I want the athletic coordinators to know, hey, you can come to me to, I'll stay. I'm more than willing to stay and work the games that night, or if the Zach that's over the field crews needs a field mowed, I'll go out and mow it for him, if we're shorthanded. So, I started at the bottom. I started picking up trash and cleaning bathrooms and keeping score. So, like, there's really no job that I haven't done in Parks and Rec, and I'm not too good to do it. And, I do feel like that might be something that people, might get into the director position and be like, hey, not that I'm too good for it, but hey, we've got people under us that do that stuff. But, I'm not, if I see a piece of trash on the ground, I'm going to pick it up. I'm not going to call somebody and say, hey, there's a piece of trash on the ground over there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think there's a camaraderie that you're building and respect that comes with it. And taking a team that goes from just survival mode to thriving mode, right? And having that experience. I think some of that with you, it sounds like basically what you're saying is you lead by example, and you're not too big to do whatever job needs to be done, because that's the goal, right? Whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. Because if something goes wrong, fingers can be pointed at me anyway. So I got to make sure it's taken care of. Just even in the summertime on the weekends, I'll come in and check the pool chemicals at least once and make sure they're right. That's the last thing I want, something to be wrong when somebody goes and jumps in the pool. So.
Yeah, clean that up. All right, I want to switch from that a little bit. I want to dive in a little bit about your perspective in terms of how many sports do you guys offer there at Homewood Parks, and you're year round with youth sports, right?
Yeah. So we offer the typical basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, lacrosse, wrestling. Let's see,
Football.
Tackle football, flag football, cheerleading. So the main core things we definitely offer. We try to offer. We offer swim team.
Okay.
So I think that's about it.
Are those run in house? Are they parent volunteer? How do you run?
So we run flag football, basketball, volleyball, wrestling. What else? We run all those in house. Our soccer is club ran, so they've got employees, and then everything else: baseball, softball, tackle football, and cheerleading is all, and lacrosse is all parent boards.
Okay. Got it. And how's the enrollment? Are you seeing increases, decreases? What are you seeing?
It's definitely increased since I've been here. Just for example, basketball was 250 players when I first got here, and this year we were pushing 1,200.
Wow.
But our average person in Homewood, the age has dropped down to the low 30s, and it was up in the 50s and 60s 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of the older houses are getting torn down and new houses are getting built, and families are larger and things like that. So the schools have had to add on and stuff like that. So luckily, we have a very good relationship with our school system where we can use their gym and facilities when we need it, and they use ours if they need it. So
Good.
that helps.
I love that.
We're only 8 square miles and 30,000 people, so we're landlocked. So
Yeah, you're landlocked. Yeah.
we can't really do much more.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about we'll talk about joint use agreements, your partnership with the schools, your partnership with the community, and a little bit more about youth sports as we dive in. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll see you guys in 2 minutes.
It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all: the passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you. For showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one. This year, we didn't just attend an event. We became part of something bigger. IPRA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IPRA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IPRA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IPRA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IPRA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next.
Welcome back to the Youth Sports Mastery. We're hanging out with Jacob Stevens from Homewood Parks, Alabama. I kind of love that, man. It's in the South. So you were talking about when we went to break, we're talking a little bit about the joint use agreements. And I got to be honest, I'm a little dumbfounded. I know that in the late 80s and 90s, there was a lot of money flowing, and municipalities had the money, and they invested in and helped the schools. But a lot of those agreements were 25, 30-year agreements. So if you go from 1995 to 2015, 2020. Then, oh, by the way, there's the pandemic, and you come out the other side. Now the schools are saying, what's in it for me? So there's a lot. We work with over 300 cities nationwide, and a lot of cities are struggling to keep that relationship solid with municipalities and schools. Tell me a little bit about yours, and is that something that it just magically appeared, or how does it work, and where did that come from?
It was good when I first got here. basically at the time we only used the a couple basketball courts at some of the schools. Then we had some athletic directors at the high schools change over and things like that. So I knew some of those athletic directors from just being parents of kids coming up. So that helped that relationship develop a little bit more. So that opened up more avenues. Of course, they were reaching out to us about playing at our facilities for like eighth grade baseball and things like that. And then we got a new superintendent about 5 or 6 years ago, and he's got 4 young kids. So that also helps. We meet with them a pretty good bit and talk about the future. But really, if their facilities are open, we get to use them. If ours are open, we let them use theirs. Their soccer teams practice at our facilities every day. They use our tennis facilities for high school and then sometimes middle school. So it's really a good relationship. My wife's actually a teacher for the school system, and then my mother-in-law is actually the athletic director's secretary. So it helps. It's good to know people.
Yeah, look, nepotism in relationships is a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So from your perspective, working with schools, obviously, give and take is there. That helps out. And look, sometimes they're going to take priority versus you. We totally get that. Obviously, that's got to happen. But from your perspective, and when you look at kids' sports, when you have programs that are not thriving, what do you think is maybe, give some tips out there or thought processes? You got 1,200 kids playing basketball. What is it about basketball, do you think, that's making it spike up versus maybe another sport that's going down? What do you think is the difference there?
I feel like when I first came over, it took a couple of years for the coaches to understand that they weren't running the program. So that took a little bit of time. But once they realized that we were actually running the program and facilitating everything, and you know how it can be with a alpha gets in there and just to draft teams, and they almost take the role of, oh, I'm getting these kids and blah, blah, blah. And,
Right.
Really standing firm of how we're going to select teams and run facilities and schedule practices and have referees and hold them accountable. That word gets around town, and it's like, hey, y'all need to play next year. And, each year it goes up by 50 players.
Right.
It just snowballed, and it's just not stopped. I mean, the year of COVID was the only year it went down. It only went down like 5%. So I'll still take it for a win in that crazy year. So
Yeah, during that time, sure. So we run a program here, 2,400 kids, 11 different locations, 16 different gyms. I mean, it's a little bit insane, to be honest.
mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to me because what you said is what you permit, you promote. So if you're in recreation and parks, don't be afraid of holding people accountable, because when you do that, you might lose that one parent that you didn't really want to deal with anyways, but
Right.
you're going to pick up a lot more, right, across the board.
Exactly. And I think that might be why the turnover for like athletic coordinators, athletic directors is so high, is just dealing with that on a constant basis. Especially if you're running multiple leagues and they're overlapping. I mean, it can really mess with your mental health a lot, depending on what kind of mindset you have. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Youth sports parents, let's be honest, they can be a thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
They can be a thing. But on the other hand, here's what I will say, which I think is kind of interesting. The parents, like when we run leagues, we bring out a parent orientation. We have systems and things that we do to develop this out. So that we do that. That's part of what we do here. And I think it really works because it helps the parents to understand their role and responsibilities, right?
Yeah, and I think one thing that I really wasn't doing a great job of once I got here for so many years in a row, I forgot that, hey, each year you've got new parents coming in that don't know everything, and just giving kind of a history lesson and teaching them how things work, and it kind of eliminates a lot of the rumors that get started of how that stuff goes. So
Yeah.
that's something I've really been pushing the last couple of years is, hey, let's go ahead and put it out there on how we handle drafts, how we select kids, why we play on weekends that, the schools may be out on Monday, but we still have to play because there's only so many weekends in the year to get the
Right.
season in. So,
Yeah.
it just helps eliminate that, the rumors that get going.
I think communication like that is being transparent. It makes all the difference in the world because you can reference back to it. You can say, here it is. When I refereed college basketball way back in the day, I'd always reference the coach's box. And my fellow official, like, why do you do that? I said, because when they're out of the coach's box, I can say, Coach, I can't hear you because you're not in your coach's box. Well, I don't reference it. You know what I mean? It's like that's how we got to do these things,
Exactly.
across the board. So in Parks and Rec, there's a lot across the country that are struggling financially. Prices have gone up. There's been a lot of struggles with less kids playing now because they're getting told they got to specialize. They got told they got to play one sport and that. Let's talk about specialization in your mindset. Where are you at on that? What are you seeing? Where's your mind on that? What do you think about your experience and what you're seeing in experience?
I'm definitely not a fan of it. I've got a 3 and a 5-year-old that are just now getting into sports, and my 5-year-old this year, when I was saying, "Hey, baseball season's coming up for t-ball," and he's like, "Oh, I want to play soccer again." I'm like, "No, we're not. We're not going year round."
Yeah.
So I was like, "You're going to at least try it, and we'll do soccer again in the fall." And so I'm not a proponent of that. I am a fan of. I do think soccer should be the first sport a kid plays, just because of the foot-eye coordination is the first thing they develop. But
Yeah.
I don't think they need to do it year round. Even if they do multiple seasons, they need to throw something else in there with it.
Yeah.
Even I saw some posts of our opening day and seeing some 10U parents posting last year of rec ball, and I'm like, we've got 7 teams in rec ball this year. Why are we gonna kill rec ball when they get to 11?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just, that's one thing I'm really gonna hone in on this next year, is making sure that we keep offering rec league sports towards
It's a mindset that's there. Unfortunately, parents are being sold at a young age. Hey, Jacob, man, your 5-year-old, we can get him a college scholarship, but he's got to play soccer year round. And as well as I do, he's going to burn out. He's going to have injuries. He's not going to want to keep doing it. So, recreation to me is going to be the savior. To Parks and Recreation will be the savior for youth sports. And when Parks and Rec take it back and do like you're doing basketball and running it out there and making it and playing different sports and doing it that way, that's going to work.
And I'm starting to see things come back around. The quote travel ball. I feel like it's slowing down a little bit around here. Maybe that's just because prices are going up, so people are just kind of staying closer to home. Just even from being a kid, like AAU basketball. When I was a kid, if you played AAU, you were like really good, and there was only like 1 or 2 kids in the whole county that even played.
Yeah.
But travel ball's a business. They're not there for development. And, even at the rec level, I feel like we're doing a poor job of developing the kids. We're skipping steps. Especially, you got to teach a kid how to dribble, whether it's a soccer ball or whatever else. It's almost like being a kid in school. It's like we're not teaching the alphabet or numbers before they do math or reading.
Right.
We're skipping the basics, and we're like, oh, let's just give it to the kid that's the best, or they're going to play pitcher or whatever other sport. We're going to put them in the most dominant role.
You brought that to the forefront. It's really, we have to remember that number 1 is safety, number 2 is fun, number 3 is development, right?
Yeah.
And the development you're talking about is social emotional, right? But it's also jump stops and pivots and bounce passes and cuts and throwing and catching, all those fundamental skills. And I agree with you. Sometimes we get sucked into the vortex of winning games.
Oh yeah, we're making adjustments on how we coach to win games.
Right.
And I'm even seeing that with my 5-year-old playing t-ball. we're adjusting things or not fixing swings just to win a game. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, we need to rethink this a little bit.
I got to run Magic Johnson's basketball camp in Cal Lutheran at Thousand Oaks in 1983. And we brought all the coaches together. We had 400 boys coming to camp, and I had a great staff, high school coaches, great. Just, it was awesome. And he said, okay, what's the goal for what we're going to do? There's about 60 of us in the room. And they're talking about, we're teaching discipline and this and that, and the whole deal. And he said, wait. And with that big magic smile, he said, win kids. Our job is to win kids. Now, when we went out there, we won kids because we would teach in a positive way, right? We'd have accountability. We'd have relay races. We would do it fun. We'd do all these different things. But You're right. We in the Parks and Rec space, we have to teach, right? Like when I do my coaches clinics, like, how many teachers do we have here? And sometimes it takes them 5 minutes to raise their hand, but they realize they're really teachers. Like, that's what coaches do.
And it's even the same thing with camps. When I go to camps as a kid, regardless of what sport it was, we were going hard and learning and doing different drills. And it's like, you go to camp now and it's like they're just babysitting service and it's just quick money. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So the National Academy of Athletics, we have something I want to get your thought on this. So we do what's called talk, teach, play. Nothing we do is last longer than 15 minutes unless it's an all-out game. So we go 3 minutes of verbal instruction. Jacob, we need you to pass the ball. So we're going to teach you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, why to do it. Okay. After we teach you that, then we're going to spend 6 minutes and practice that skill. After that, with directions and corrections, right? We're going to do it the right way. And then the last 6 minutes, we're going to let you play some competition using what you just learned. So in 15 minutes, you learned about it, you practice it, then you played it. And you know what? If they get goofy or whatever, they're having fun, who cares? Hopefully, we'll see them become competitive and get the competitive spirit, but it's still focused on the effort rather than just the result. 15 minutes, get a water break, right? Come back, let's do the next skill. So like you said, if they're going stations with passing and dribbling and shooting and defense, they're going to learn the basics of the game. I believe where I think Parks and Rec could do better, they should have mandatory, as much as that can be a thing, clinics, not just for the coaches, but player clinics. If you had, because think about this, like I watched Little League USA, and they brought me in to do some trainings and whatnot. On average, the kids get 6 1-hour practices before their first game. 6 hours of baseball. You're teaching a pretty complex sport.
Very complex.
Right? I was being nice, right? And then all of a sudden you got to get up in there and they're throwing the ball at you, So maybe if we add the clinics, that's why I think the National Academy of Athletics, we're thriving, is because more and more leagues like you are bringing us in and we're running clinics prior to each season so that if it's flag football, they're learning how to throw and catch and how to line up and how to move without the ball and tag and, in basketball, jump stops, pivot. And if they learn those things, what I found with my own kids, I've got 2 adult kids, when they learned those things, you know what happened? When they went to that sport, they were so much more confident and comfortable playing, made all the difference.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I see it leaving my office at night. There'll be the first couple of practices going, and you'll see teams already scrimmaging. And I'm like, it's our first week of practice. What are we doing? And I'm like, and, they'll have all the kids in one line and doing all one drill at a time. Like, you got to get these kids moving, doing multiple things at once to, one, like you said, keep their interest. But so I like your little 15-minute example you gave me. I really like that. You're not going to get much focus out of a kid, but if you're changing what they're doing every 3 to 5 minutes, you're kind of keeping their interest. And if they know, hey, in 15 minutes, this is over, going to something else, that's
what we do, which is interesting, is we change the venue because for me, being able to move them from place to place, they're looking at something different. Those clouds look like Abe Lincoln, where those clouds look like George Washington. Because some kids are doing that. But moving where they're looking and what they're seeing, as well as the skill they're doing, I like keeping them off balance a little bit because that keeps them engaged. Think, oh, I better pay attention because I don't want it. So that's part of it. The other one that a good friend of mine that I'm really proud of the work he does is Dr. Michael Herbert. is called proximal play. And for us, I don't know if you know the term, but the gist of it is that what we do here in our programs at NAFA is that we want it to be challenging enough that they feel like they've got to keep working towards it, but not so much that they go, I can't win. I'll give you an example. If you took your 5-year-old, put them with a regular basketball on a 10-foot hoop, no chance.
No.
Nope, I'm not shooting. Not going to do it. But we give them a smaller ball, lower hoop. Now it's go time, right?
Yep.
So those are the adjustments we make. On the other hand, it can't be so easy that they can make every basket, just drop it in every time, because that's boring. So finding that balance between is really leveling it and creating an environment where kids have the best opportunity to learn, fall in love with doing it, and then succeed. Because see, confidence to me is about, they got to fail first, and then they get better. If they succeed every time right away, they don't neuroscientially see that as confidence. They see it as just easy. So you have to challenge them, and find that balance between is really a good way to do it.
Yep. No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So what do you think are the barriers that you're seeing? You know, at Project Play, they were talking about barriers of, I'll give you one, which is financials, right? Barriers of kids playing sports, so particularly rec sports, but just sports in general. What are some barriers that you see?
Really, it's the unrealistic parent expectation, I feel like, of, you know, they might be okay with a year or two of rec, but then they feel like the fear of missing out, that they feel like they have to go do travel ball or something. You know, the amount of money I see these kids spending on like soccer just to go down to the beach to play in a tournament, and it's the same teams that they can play here in Birmingham. You know, I'm like, don't complain about how much it costs when you're willing to go down to the beach. So that's probably our biggest hurdle that we're dealing with is the fear of missing out, and it's totally parent related right now.
I think the other one that's kind of interesting is, I don't know if you watched the spot where it said it's just rec, you know.
I like that.
And that's a huge campaign we got. It's not just rec, people. You know, rec is where you make your friends, you learn the fundamentals in a safe, easy way, and you learn to develop teamwork and leadership and empathy and make friends and all those things, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like every year, our baseball board comes to us and they're like, "We need more fields," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm out there 2 nights a week now, and I see how many empty fields there are from just teams canceling practice." And I'm like, why are you canceling? It's a beautiful night, and they're just canceling to cancel. I'm like, you know, if you're not going to be fully committed, let's not coach.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we're going through right now. It's that it's just rec, but it's not. You know, a lot of people don't understand that's the only thing they're doing. They don't understand, hey, yeah, we know your kid's on 2 or 3 different teams or 2 or 3 different sports, and y'all are just trying to have a night off. That, you know, most of the team, you've got your kid that they're only doing this one sport, and that's their only chance to get out there.
And the life skill, but also, you know, you never know what experience that kid's going through, divorce at home or what's going on. So that safe environment that you provide for that kid, man, it's so valuable. I mean, it literally changes lives, right?
Oh, yeah, and right here we've got 3 different elementary schools. So when there's a baseball team out there practicing, you know, that's some of those kids' only shot to meet some of those kids before they go to middle school when they're all together. So, you know, and you see it when they go to middle school. It's like this one group of school kids stays together and all. They don't really mix in until later on when they get into like high school and they realize it doesn't matter. So.
Yeah. What's that attracts you from? My daughter really, I knew it, but it really came to me when my daughter was going into high school, and she played basketball, soccer, softball, volleyball, and cheerlead as she grew up. And so when she got there, she knew 60% of the girls.
Yeah.
As well as some of the boys, you know what I mean? So it was like just old home week, even though, you know what I mean? Coming from 4 middle school, 3 middle schools, you know, 7 elementary, 3 middle to the high school.
Oh, wow.
Connection, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get your town, you know. But when I saw that, I was like, man, and her confidence walking into that. That's a big, especially for girls. But I'll tell you what, if you got a daughter, man, there's stats that are unbelievable that say keep your daughter playing through the age of 16, because what they developed, the two percenters, right? 98% of the two percenters competed in the sport through the age of 16. So what does that tell you?
Totally agree. And here in Homewood, like show choir and band is real big too. But they want them to do everything. That they want them to keep playing sports and also do that. So there's times where Friday night the band's got 450 kids out there on the field, and all of a sudden you'll see either a cheerleader in a cheer uniform or a football player in shoulder pads out there playing. Just because they don't want anybody to miss that opportunity.
Yeah, and what would you tell a coach that because this is one that I've been really thinking from the top, from my end of it. And when I get coaches that are telling kids that they need to specialize, or that I try to wonder what's a good message for them in terms of how do we convey that? Because the stats and I know the stats, but people aren't getting the message.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what the answer to that is. We see a few kids specialize here in Homewood, but not a whole lot. But usually they're leading themselves down a dead end street. It's like, if it doesn't work out, what are you going to do?
Right.
And that's where I kind of worry about things, and especially now that I've got kids, I don't want them to go through that. Who knows? They might not be into sports at all, even though I am, and maybe they are in the band. And that's okay.
They'll be into sports even if they're not the top athlete, because I tell everybody, every kid is a sports kid as long as the parents are excited about it, because they'll want to do that, because kids want to please their parents. I mean, not think about it, but they do. So you bring them out there and you start playing catch with your kid, they're going to like doing it. They may not be the best, but it's how we go forward with that. So let's talk about the parents' role. What do you want the parents? We've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left, so coming up. But what would you say is your request from Parks and Rec to the parent out there? What's the request from them?
I would say step back and let them be a kid for a minute. Would be the number one thing. Still go on your family vacations. Let them play with toys, video games. Experience life a little bit more. Don't just go play 120 travel baseball games in the summertime. I've been in Park and Rec for 27 years, and I've got one kid that's gone through my program that made it professionally. Made it to the NBA, but that kid was 5 playing with 7, 8-year-olds, and he was just different. Yep. And we've got kids here in Homewood that are good, but not at that level of just being different. But even that kid that made it to the NBA, he was a phenomenal baseball player growing up, and probably could have played that also before he picked basketball. Yeah. So that's usually how it goes.
Those that are really good, I'm not gonna lie, they're you can tell. There's, like you said, they're special. There's something definitely about it. So for the parents, for the coaches, for everybody out there, I think it's important that we realize that it's not just rec. Rec is more than that. And some people look at it in ends to a means. I don't think you have to choose. I think you can do both. For me, I didn't play AAU till my junior year of high school and going into senior. I feel, and there's nothing wrong with AAU, don't get me wrong, but you can get a lot more out of it. You can get a lot more life experience and get a lot more value by playing rec, and maybe your sophomore year in high school, or, you're in high school and now the high school coach, you start to pivot through. But man, the longer kids play, the better it is for their life. But those stats are out there, right?
Oh yeah. Stats are everywhere for that stuff. I just don't. And that's something I would like parents to maybe research, if they take a step back and see that they're going down that crazy rabbit hole of either specializing in a sport or playing it year round, not taking breaks. You need to step back and see all the math that's out there, and are you putting that much effort into your schooling?
Yeah, right. Well, we have a website called itsjustrec.com. and parents can find some information there to help out. But if someone's looking to get in touch with you, whether they're a rec director and is kind of like, hey, how do you do this and stuff, where's the best way for them to find you? LinkedIn or?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You can go to homewoodparks.com and find my contact info as well.
Great. Well, like I said, I look forward to working with you, and I appreciate your time and willing to share the story a little bit with us. And I'm excited, man. I know we've got a franchisee down there near Birmingham, so I'm going to try to connect Angelique up with you and see if we can be of service, maybe help run some clinics or trainings for some of your coaches and kids. That would be a great way to do it. For those of you out there that are involved in youth sports, thank you, right, from both of us. If you're a parent volunteer, if you're coaching out there, thank you for doing that, because you're changing lives. We all know that right across the board. If you want more information on what we've got going on, check out nationalacademyofathletics.com. Find us on all the socials. Man, oh man, let's make it great for kids, because when kids get a positive youth sports experience, I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool, and it gives them an opportunity to be great citizens, and that's what we want from everybody, right?
And it goes by quick, so enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. I love it. All right. Thanks, Jacob. Be well, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.